Welcome back to the 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show. My name is Wayne Kimmel, managing partner of 76 Capital and host of this show. We are live at Citizens Bank Park for the Perfect Game All-American Classic. This is amazing to be here. And I'm joined by the chairman and president of Perfect Game, Rick Thurman. Rick, welcome to our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show.
Wayne, it's great to be here.
It's great to have you on the show. I've heard so much about you all over these years. Rob's told me great things, and just excited to have you to talk about what you're doing here and just the growth of PG.
Thanks. Wonderful. Well, listen, we've had a blast. Rob and I came into Perfect Game about 8 years ago, and we had a vision for this business and where youth sports was going. And I can tell you, had a ton of fun with Rob building this company and really expanding the youth baseball market.
You know, it's one of those things where we were just sitting here a couple of weeks ago and we had the best major leaguers playing on this field. And now we have the best youth baseball players here because you guys brought them here to Citizens Bank Park. It's just incredible to see that. And it must be an amazing thing for you to be able to assemble the best players in youth baseball to come and play at Perfect Game.
It's amazing. I mean, when you look at these kids today and how advanced they are, I mean, so many. I played professional baseball 45 years ago, high school, college, and all that. And I look back at the talent of the players then. You know, when I got drafted in 1983, the average major league pitcher threw 86 miles an hour. Okay. And you look at these kids today, that doesn't even get you drafted, right? I mean, every one of these kids out here throws over 90 miles an hour and they're 16, 17 years of age. Every one of these kids is big. They eat right. They're all these nutritional programs. They've got personal trainers. I mean, these are the thoroughbreds of the youth baseball market out here playing in this game. And funny story. And it's a great story, actually. So I'm really close with the Pence family and Striker Pence is playing in the game. But 8 years ago, he calls me Uncle Rick. He says to me at the game in Arizona, he says, Uncle Rick, he's literally this tall, right? He says, can I go out and shag balls before the game, the All-American Classic? And I said, you got your glove? He says, yeah. So for an hour and a half, he was out there shagging balls. And that became a tradition over the last 8 years. Every All-American Classic, Striker comes out to the ballpark and he'll shag balls. But the cool thing is now he's actually playing in the game. And he, along with 50, 60 other kids out here are just tremendous athletes, and kudos to all of them. Kudos to all their family, the parents who spend the money, get these kids trained, go traveling around the country with them. I mean, it's a big responsibility.
You know, you've taken this journey, right, as a youth top athlete and taken it all the way. You know, share a little bit of your journey. And I want to get into that and sort of comparing that to what's happening with these kids today.
Well, listen, when I was young and playing baseball, you would literally play in Little League in your neighborhood, right? And you couldn't really gauge as to whether or not you were really good or not, because in some neighborhoods, you had kids that were good athletes, and in some neighborhoods, kids weren't very good athletes, right? So you might think you're King Kong, but the kids are really not very talented. So, what you see today is kids are now traveling to different places. They're playing the best of the best kids from all around the country. And quite frankly, now they're traveling out of the country and all around the world, right? And so that's changed. I think the nutritional factors changed. These kids are now eating properly. I mean, the parents go to Whole Foods. Heck, when we were kids, we ate canned peaches, for dinner and things like that. So it's a whole different nutritional world. And it feels like they're growing kids bigger these days, but I think a lot of it has to do with the training and the personal training that they do and the efforts. And quite frankly, the other thing is back, 30, 40, 50 years ago, you didn't really specialize in one sport so much. You
Right.
played baseball in the summertime. And then football would come. You play Pop Warner football come September. And then you play basketball in December, January. And so you'd start this whole cycle. So kids today, you don't see them playing multiple sports the way they used to. You see them now really specializing and becoming the best they can be at one particular sport. So it's changed a lot in that direction.
What was the thing that sort of, in your mind, made it coming and purchasing Perfect Game? Like, what was the thing that you and Rob made that decision to do that? Why Perfect Game? And what did you think you could do with this? And has this far exceeded your expectations?
Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting story. When Rob and I got together, he had, he was the CFO of IMG. I owned the biggest baseball agency in the country at the time, Beverly Hills Sports Council. We came from similar areas, but very different, right? And Rob, when he was at IMG, had always been very interested in rolling up the youth sports market. And I really, other than being an agent and looking at kids to recruit, I didn't really know a lot about the youth sports market the way Rob did. He had done a full analysis of it
Right.
and whatnot. So, but we had met with the people who had owned Perfect Game, and I knew the family because I represented their son, Ben Ford, when they started Perfect Game. The Ford family did in 1995. And, we approached them on, actually initially to consult with them, but, ultimately it turned into a situation where we were able to acquire the company. But what we saw was really a brand. It was a unicorn in the space at the time. It was all the elite players from 14 to 18. But we loved the name Perfect Game. We thought that was a great name. But we also saw the growth potentials because at the time when we came in and acquired the company, we were only playing in 5 or 6 states and mostly in the South. And we thought we could expand it and create a much larger vision. I can tell you, I remember the day that we had our first meeting with the staff. I think we had 40 employees at the time. 12 of them had the same last name. But we had everybody in a group meeting, and everybody was wearing these t-shirts. And I'll never forget, on the one side, it had PG, and on the other side, it had a Nike swoosh. And Rob looked up at everybody and says to Jerry Ford, "How much you getting paid for this from Nike to co-brand this?" I think Jerry said 25 or 50 grand or something like that, right? And Rob said, "Well, I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to forego that procedure. This brand is going to stand on its own." And from that point on, we really focused on creating a brand, but also creating the best potential platform we could for kids, expanding the ages, going from just 14 to 18 to from 7 to 13, right? And expanding the geographical locales from 4 or 5 states. I think we're now in 43 states and we're in 11 countries. So we've just kept building that imprint.
So when you walk into a Dick's Sporting Goods and you see the PG section,
yeah,
what does that make? How does that make you feel?
Well, you see the smile on my face, right? No, I love it. It's, because it validates what a lot of our vision was. We're still growing. We're still evolving. We've got a long way to go. Both on an apparel standpoint, but just on an imprint in baseball here in the States, softball, and quite frankly, going into other sports down the road. We feel like our platform works on almost any team sport. And so we're excited about what the future holds.
So when you look at the future and kind of where we are today and even going back, like just from a technology perspective, the amount of tech and data that you had back in the day, as we had hardly anything, right? And now all of a sudden we're here at this place where we're using some of the latest and greatest technologies to help these young people to get even better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. You got spin rate and all these different things that we didn't have. I mean, the only technology we had when I was in the business and when I was playing really was you had a radar gun, right? And, so I think a lot of this stuff with the analytics, I think some of it's interesting. I don't think you can gauge a player on all these things because there's a lot of things in the middle that kind of get gray. It's kind of like when I owned the agency, there was all these guys that came from, Billy Ball, Billy Bean school, where all of a sudden the analytics became everything and the old scouts kind of got pushed to the side. Right. But what the reality was, you can't really do 100% without the other, right? It's the old scouting ways. And then you take the analytics and you fill in the blanks with some of the analytics, not vice versa. So I think we feel the same way with the technology going forward with sports and youth baseball. Other things that, we think from a technology standpoint that's great is, look, you can we're live streaming games now.
Right.
You know, moms and dads and grandparents and brothers, and they can watch live stream games. So they don't necessarily have to go to little Billy's game, you know, or through that platform, you can watch a tape delayed game, or you can save all the information. You've got your own basically photo book, you know, of everything your son's done. So I wish I had that from 50 years ago or 60 years ago when I was a kid playing. I would love to have pictures or videos of my home runs or throwing, or, you know, it'd be great, but we don't have that, you know.
Yeah, that was
the old 8mm, right?
Absolutely. You're saying the exact same thing that Rob shared with me at the All-Star game at our All-Star house, was the idea of, imagine if you had those clips as a kid.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, it's just history, but these kids in the future will have that.
Yeah. No, they will. And it's quite amazing. I mean, look, we're a content machine, right? And we just pump out content. So these kids have access to all that content that we pump out as well. It's not just like they have to rely on mom and dad to put the content. We've got the content for them, and they have access to it.
I know another big thing for you and Rob and the whole team is doing the right thing for the kids.
Yeah.
And I know you've implemented a number of different things over the last several years to really make sure that this game is safe and fun for the kids.
Yeah. Well, there's been a few things. I mean, we've got the pitch counts, you know, you can only throw so many pitches in a game, you can't pitch the rest of the week type of thing. And then, you know, we've banned a bat or two over the time because we think the bat's maybe a little bit too hot, because we don't want to have any injuries. You know, I mean, look, it's sports, so you're going to have injuries from time to time. But if you can mitigate those issues and potentially side skirt some of the damages, then, you know, you're doing the right thing. So we're trying to make it a better sport, making it a cleaner sport. We're trying to make it a safer sport. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's amazing. You know, this has been for many, many years this is your office. This is where you work. But you guys have expanded Perfect Game all over the country and now the world, and all what you're going to do here. It's just really exciting to see what you've done. When you look at the future, what does the future look like for PG?
You know, I'll tell you a story. When I first started my sports agency in 1984 with Dennis Gilbert, the agent business was framed very differently at the time than it is today. Okay. But I can remember for the first 10 years of my career going into my office, and I always felt like I had a canvas to paint on because there was something new to do that we could be innovative with. And I feel the same exact way about Perfect Game. I lost that with the agency after about 10 years because I got to a point where I couldn't do any more than I had already done. You know, other than you could be that mouse in the cage running in circles and doing the same old thing over and over because there wasn't a lot of new tricks to the business anymore. But with Perfect Game, with the kids, with the media, with the technology that's involved, with the apparel, with the international, all the expansion, like, to me, it's other sports. It's an open canvas. And so, you know, I know that's kind of it's a vague answer to some degree, but we are not ever short of deal flow. Like, we have stuff coming to us all the time. We have to pick and choose and then be creative with how we implement things. Right. But, I see us expanding more internationally. I see us continuing to grow our base here, in the States. I think that from a media standpoint, you're going to start seeing a lot more PG.TV games on TV and live streamed. I think we live streamed 80,000 games last year. But it's going to be much more available to the everyday person. Kind of similar to, you know, like when you go into an airport and you in an airport bar and you see the Little League World Series going every single time, right? Or you see a girls softball game, right? Girls college softball. You see that all that. I think you're going to be seeing that a lot more in Perfect Game. And quite honestly, I think that our platform's going to be slowly evolving over time into a lot of different other sports as well.
Well, I can certainly see it happen. I mean, your passion for this and this business and the game is infectious. And I'm sure that the rest of your team, you know, when you're talking with them, you know, that it kind of goes down to them as well. I mean, you love this. It's obvious you love this. It's obvious you love what you do. And that's really special.
I've been very lucky in my life. I've been able to work in the sports business, which I think probably most people would love to be able to do. I've been able to weather it for the last 40 years. And quite honestly, like this is, it's all I know. I know the sports business backwards and forwards, but I love it. And I'm just on a different end of it. I'm not on the professional side anymore. I'm on the youth side, but I feel like this is the feeder to the professional, and I get a chance to actually see kids as they're coming up and getting better and growing up, similar to the story with Stryker.
Absolutely. Well, Rick, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, and really appreciate, having you come on the show, and wish you and PG and the rest of your team here lots of luck and success.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks.
All right.
Appreciate it. Welcome back to the 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show. My name is Wayne Kimmel, managing partner of 76 Capital and host of this show. We are live here at the Perfect Game All-American Classic at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, and really excited to have Vaughn on our show to talk about all the things that you're doing with Perfect Game, as well as all the things that you're doing across your businesses and in sports and baseball in general.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. And, so what was your first connection to Perfect Game?
Listen, Rick and I were talking back a few years. I'm based out of Boca Raton, Florida. I have Vaughn Sports Academy down there. We were just talking about on a level of just, tournaments and things like that. And we struck up a relationship, and I was able to invest. And now it's the platform of youth baseball. It's where you need to be. It's where baseball is. That's why we're here today. Right. We're producing the top players in the country. I think the stage that we're able to put them on gets them prepared. I see that's why you have so many great young players coming up and playing so well. It's going through our organization. So, it's been a great relationship. They've really, done some great things with me, and we continue to support each other. So it's been a great time.
That's amazing to hear. I mean, it's one of the things that's just been so special about baseball and the connection between the top organization like Perfect Game and just youth baseball in general. You're involved with youth baseball and talk about what you're doing with your academy and how you're working with young kids today.
It's been, we're 8 years deep. I'm very, lucky, my son just turned 14 years old going into 8th grade. So, this was basically for him. But we have a great structure down at VSA in Boca Raton, Florida. We service about 2,000 kids. We have teams. We have elite teams. We have all different types of things that we do. We're also in the academies in the NAA program, where we're playing against other great, academies across the country. It's really like a college setting, and you're working out, going to school, and you're playing on the weekends, gets you prepared. So I'm very excited of what VSA is doing with the help of PG.
So when some of these kids come up to you and say, I'm a lefty, I want to hit some bombs someday at Fenway, how do you, what are some of the things that you share with these kids, how they can actually get to the next level?
First of all, what I've always admired about this group and the groups that come in, these guys are all the top players in the country, but their parents raised them right. They're good people, and they ask questions, and they want to gain knowledge. And that's why you understand with great athleticism and strength, that's why they're there with the talent. But I just talk to them about preparation, how to get ready for a game, what to look for. Everybody's physically capable out here. Now it's the mind that has to be put in its proper place to understand what that pitcher is trying to do to you versus how you counter and work through your at bats, in a game. And then also the structure of how do you prepare? What do you do each day? What tee work? What soft toss? All these different drills you have to do to get you prepared to be successful on the field.
Well, I think, it's interesting. Do you compare what you used to do when you were playing and think about how you prepared for games and as for what goes on with the kids today, or is there a difference in the way people prepare today?
Listen, I think there's so much information. There's so many things. I think these boys come up a lot more ready. I went to college and I played college baseball, but I think these guys understand how to get prepared for those big tournaments, and that mindset of thrusting them into those positions against the best players gets them ready. That's why they travel through the minor leagues so well and have the opportunity to come to the big leagues and contribute, because they've already been put in those situations. So I think preparation and information.
Right.
As long as it's not information, information overload can really be, really the game today is really advanced now.
I mean, that's a really interesting point. I mean, about information. I mean, it's a big thing that we do at 76 Capital of investing in the latest and greatest technologies across all sports, including baseball. And, it's one of the things that's really interesting to see today where, you can measure literally everything, whether it's a swing or the throw or whatever, the complete body, getting all that information and then being able to present that in a way that it's not too much to these kids.
I think it's very, very important to understand those metrics. Those metrics can only be helpful if put in the right position. But ultimately, you got to know your swing and your mechanics.
Right.
Numbers can't tell you everything.
Right.
Hitting is about feeling. It's about confidence. It's about feeling. It's about knowing how to prepare. So if you have that and then you couple it with the numbers, now you got something. You just can't go off of numbers.
Right.
You have to use mechanics and technique. And then when you combine the two, you really have a good bomb of, an ability to be successful.
Yeah, I love hearing you say that because it's a big thing we talk about. It's sort of the convergence of the physical world and digital world and physical, then your knowledge and then being able to then implement that with
because the numbers give you a ending point, but then there's a starting point and a middle point, and you have to be able to practice those things to let the numbers dictate and how you get better. You know what I'm saying? The technique, the mechanics, the drills. And if you do those drills the right way, then your numbers tend to creep up and explode.
Amazing. Amazing. And so you talked about your academy. Are there other businesses that you're involved with within the sports world?
No, I was very, very fortunate when I retired in 2003, I got into the affordable housing business in New York City. We owned and operated over 19,000 units of affordable housing. We're still doing that now in Florida. And I've been very, very fortunate. I've had great people. Listen, any and everything we do, whether it be baseball, business, it's all about the people. And I've been very, very fortunate to have great people in all my structures, in Vaughn Sports Academy now and things I've done in the past and continue to do. So, now, as I'm getting older, I'm going to be almost 60 years old in a couple of years, kind of like hit that bullseye and stay in it and know what you know.
Absolutely. It's as we start to wind down here on our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And what does it mean to you? You said as a dad, right? Watching your son now, seeing these kids here, what is it? Why are you here? Like, what's the real reason?
As you get older, you try to tend to figure out, looking back at your life and your career and things that happen, what are you? I'm a baseball guy. And I'm a baseball coach, and I'm a hitting coach. And I think all of those things that I've done as a player propelled me to really understand what I am, and really I like to be. The soul of me is on the field, in the batting cage, trying to give people the information that I was able to, blessed to get. And I want to pass it along. And I think, luckily I have a son, that he's a great kid, and, he listens and he lets me teach him. And my job is to get around guys and try to pass all the information I have down. And when I'm dead and gone, I hope somebody else does the same thing.
That's amazing. One last thing, PG, what's the future look like for Perfect Game and this unbelievable brand that, has been built up over the last several years?
Listen, I think PG is the youth baseball mecca of the world. We're going to different countries. We're getting into softball. I see, you see now with this game, what it does, but it's the mecca. Of course, when you're at the pinnacle, you're going to take your arrows and people are going to say this or say that, but ultimately we provide the best opportunity for boys to have boys and girls to have success.
It's amazing. Well, Mo, thanks so much for taking the time and coming on the show.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome back to the 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show. My name is Wayne Kimmel, managing partner of 76 Capital, and we are live at Citizens Bank Park for the Perfect Game All-American Classic, and the home run hitting contest is going on behind us right now, and we are with Perfect Game's Chief Content Officer, Josh Gotthelf. Josh, welcome to our show, and so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for coming out to see this in action. I think there's no, it's hard to describe how special this is unless you come see it in person. So thank you.
It really is incredible. It's incredible to just see PG all over Citizens Bank Park. I mean, this is where we were all here a couple weeks ago for the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, and now your All-American Classic.
And that's the really special thing is a lot of these kids are going to hear their names called in the first round of the draft, in the second round of the draft, and on day one, just in 8 months from now. And seeing them here as kids, many of them playing for the first time in a big league park, and their lives are going to change in a few months. And this is sort of their last stop.
I mean, we're hearing the crack of the bat behind us. I mean, and these kids are hitting bombs. It's really impressive.
Several to the upper deck, which is pretty amazing to watch from 17-year-olds.
You've been in the sports business for a long time, and I want to definitely get into some of your background. But now, as the chief content officer at Perfect Game, these types of settings, these types of events must be incredible for you and your team and the kind of content that you want to put out around Perfect Game.
Absolutely incredible. We really divide our team into two lanes for a weekend like this. One is social and one is broadcast. So we broadcast the All-Star Game, which is the underclassmen, live on Friday. Then we'll come back tomorrow with the All-American Game live. Those are broadcasts that I say you could pick them up, put them on any network, broadcast them nationally on a Sunday night. And those are your traditional play-by-play, color analyst, 5 cameras, replays, graphics, the works. Now, the social team, we've got cameras. Some you can see running around behind us. Some you can't because they're on helmets. There's mics on shirts.
Wow.
These are the fun things that we get to do in a controlled environment because we are the governing body of these games. We get to really get people under the hood. And so we'll cut up 30 to 40 pieces of original content just today.
Well, I mean, I'd love to hear about that and sort of like really talk about, and as you said, get under the hood of that, because we're in in 2026, the technology is a lot better than what it was back in the day when Perfect Game first got started over 25 years ago. So to really see that shift of tech and now social, that must make it so much more fun for you.
It is so much more fun. So we'll have handheld cameras. We'll have people shooting with phones. We'll have helmet cams and hat cams. We'll have mics on shirts. We'll have meta glasses. So we'll have players take batting practice. Now, all of that said, I like to say we keep the main thing, which means we don't disrupt gameplay, meaning we'll do things differently today during the home run derby than we will tomorrow when this stadium is packed with scouts. When scouts are watching, I don't want to say serious because I think that word has connotations, but it is we have to make sure that we're giving the players the best opportunity to be evaluated for their play without the distractions of media. And so we'll be a little more under the radar while still doing some of those special things with new technology.
But you get the opportunity to really see behind the scenes what it really takes. And it's inspiring, I'm sure, for the younger Perfect Game players to see what goes on here.
I love that you said that. That has been the biggest change for me in this space over the last few years is the 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old baseball players look up to their teenage peers. Not necessarily the major leaguers. They may not sit and watch full games, but they know exactly who the top 10 seniors, juniors, 8th graders, 9th graders, they know, whether they're shooting to try to catch them or they just look up to them as peers. Influencers right. is a loaded word, but those players do influence the younger generation. It's pretty common in our world for 14-year-olds to be taking pictures with 11-year-olds, signing autographs. After a game, they take off their batting gloves. They might sign them, throw them to a little kid. They are the major leaguers to the 9, 10, 11-year-olds.
You guys have made a number of really interesting deals recently with a number of companies to kind of enhance your content. Talk about some of the things that you guys have done recently.
Yeah, so 2 deals that I'm especially proud of are with youth prospects and doubted athletes. And so both of them were covering our games last year, and they were actually broadcasting our games. And so, I spoke to our CEO, Rob Pondra, and we both shared the same opinion of let's empower them to really be able to do it as thoroughly as they want to, because the box that they checked where we sort of, when we're looking at who can potentially be a partner, the where we set the standard is good for the game. And what that means is it good for the kids, number one, and is it good for our business? And that's what good for the game means, and good for the sport of baseball. Both of those were broadcasting the games and doing it in a way that was great for the kids. And showed them in a good light. You have to have some grace.
Right.
When you cover a 12-year-old, you have to have some grace, meaning he strikes out, maybe a 12-year-old kid throws his helmet down, and knowing when to put the camera down, knowing when to throw that footage away. That's important for us and looking for partners, that you know when to give a kid grace. It's not gotcha journalism with a 12-year-old kid. It's a learning moment. So with both those partners, we set up meetings, and I got on a Zoom with them, a Teams meeting. And first thing they said was, are you going to stop us from shooting? I said, no, the exact opposite. I said, you're on the outside of the fence shooting through the fence. I want to invite you in. And we set up some ground rules that we sort of agree on together of how to do it. We start to share footage back and forth. Maybe we open up some inventory for some of our partners together, and what we'll also do is give you exclusive access. So they're here now. And there are others that aren't partners who aren't here now. And so it allows us to take our broadcast rights and open them up to the partners that we know will do right by the kids and do right by our business.
I mean, it must be exciting, not only just for you in the business to be able to have these content partners, but even just, again, sharing this with the kids themselves, their parents, their grandparents, so they even could see more of what they're doing.
You nailed it. One of the hardest things in my role is making sure we shine a light on as many kids as possible. And now when we go to a place like Jupiter in a few months, right, for the WWBA World Championships, there's lots of fields going at once. If I know that Doubted Athletes is on field 1 and Youth Prospects is on field 2, now I can put cameras on field 3, 4, and 5, not worry about those, and we all share footage together. And now all those kids on 1 and 2 just got to see themselves online, on social, on games. And so we just served more kids in a positive way.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You know, you said something earlier before we started talking on the interview here, is just you feel so lucky that this is where we work, right? This is our office, coming to places like this.
I will never take for granted that I get to do this for a living. It is, I could be sitting in a cubicle. There's lots of things I could be doing. I'm at a baseball park. And so, some of these days are 14 hours, 16 hours. I never, ever look at my phone. Like it is, I could stay for another 10 hours. We're at the ballpark. It is incredible. And there are, some guys like Vaughn, who I grew up idolizing, is right there. And then these kids, we're going to see these kids on TV, whether it's playing in college, draft day. It's an incredible experience. And I would never take for granted that this is work. It doesn't feel like work.
We'll talk about your career a little bit. You've been in sports for many, many years. Talk about the number of things that you've done.
Yeah. So I played Division III baseball when Division III baseball was, not what it is now in terms of, now there are 90 plus arms all over Division III. Weren't so much when I played.
Right.
And then I spent 20 years in basketball. So I was the co-founder of the basketball magazine Dime, and CEO, ran that, scaled it, and sold it in 2015. But in doing that, gave me an opportunity to work with Kobe many times, Allen Iverson, Shaq, Chris Paul, LeBron, Carmelo, and really get to see athletes on and off the court, now field. But what makes them tick? What do actual win-win partnerships look like with media, with brands, with athletes, so that nobody is compromising along the way, and so that the audience, the customer at the end of the day, is seeing that partnership as value and that content as value?
Well, I think you're saying is it's all about authenticity, right? And that's what it's all about.
It's about authenticity. So before these guys get here, or before our 13-year-olds get to Select Fest, or a 14-year-old, or we work with any player in any sort of partnership capacity, we have hundreds of surveys that go out to players about off the field. Tell us about you. Tell us about what you'd like to do. Tell us about, had a conversation with Striker Pence, who, will be somewhere around 100, 101 miles per hour tomorrow, most likely in the game. And he was telling me about his passion for video games. And those are the things that when we work with players, we're going to lean into that. We're not going to create content making a player do something where they're uncomfortable. We say, hey, what do you like to do? There was a player a couple weeks ago. We did a whole day in the life golfing with him. If you like to golf, you like to fish, you like to play video games, what are you interested in? And that's where we'll lean in and meet you where you are.
In your role as an executive at Perfect Game, you have a team.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you inspire your team who will be putting in some of these long days and traveling all over the place? What are some of the things that you say to them to keep them moving forward?
Here's the thing. I don't have to. That is, I can't even take credit for it. The characteristics that my teammates on my team share is they love the game of baseball. They are unbelievably dedicated to the quality of their work, and they're competitive. And so they all have those three things.
Right.
And if they have those three things, my job is really to remove obstacles for them. And hey, is there anything stopping you from doing what you do best at the speed you like to do it? And if there is, let me remove that obstacle. But they don't need like inspirational locker room speeches from it. They all compete with themselves. And so I don't have to do that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, as we start to wind down, this episode of our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show, Josh, this has been awesome having you on the show.
Thank you so
and
much for having me.
Just seeing what's happening with Perfect Game, seeing what's happening just here this weekend with the All-American Classic. When you look out at the next couple of years of PG, where do you think it goes?
Yeah, I think, well, we did on the social side, we did 1.1 billion views last year on social. And I think we've just sort of scratched the surface. I think baseball is going through, and I spent a lot of time in basketball earlier in my career, and basketball had this moment where it sort of went from a sport to a cultural revolution with the players' personalities and youth basketball and fashion and music and all of those things revolving around the game. I think baseball is going through that moment. I think that now the things like, you look at Bruce Bolt, one of our partners here, the disruption of the batting gloves. You look at Goated, our partner on the protection, the disruption of, and so the gloves, now there's culture around the game and the sort of old school of, don't flip the bat. This is how you play the game.
Right.
These are the unwritten rules. Those unwritten rules have sort of been replaced, many of them in a good way. And I am a purist of the game, but when it comes to those unwritten rules, they've been loosened up in a way that is allowing the game to grow, especially with younger kids.
So I did say that was the last question, but I do have something else.
Yeah.
I mean, because, in your role, I mean, you must deal with the different creators and influencers, and there are so many more in baseball today.
Yes.
And that are really taking advantage of what you just said and amplifying this game. So who are some of the different groups that you've worked with or people that you've worked with?
Yeah. So I'll call one out because I think they are sort of, I'll say there's two that are the gold standard right now. I'd say the CS99, those guys with Pottstown, and I'd say like the Disarm and Disarm Elite crew.
Okay.
They are making the game so fun for these kids. And the purists, call them old purists, have a tough time with it. With the mic'd ups, with the helmet cams, with all the cameras around. But it makes more kids want to play the game. And if more kids play the game, then we're all here doing this for a lot longer. So I would say those are two of my favorites who really, they check that box of good for the game. They are great for the game.
That's amazing. Well, Josh, thanks so much for coming on
Thanks
the show.
so much for having me. This has been
Appreciate
fun. Thank you.
We are here with Tom Koerick, the founder of SkillShow. Tom, welcome to our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show.
Thanks. Great to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so excited to hear about the background of SkillShow. I mean, how many years you've been involved with youth sports, and I've seen some of the incredible videos, and I was flicking through your Instagram and saw Freddie Freeman on there. So been doing this for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, to your point, thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it. You guys do great work. This is exciting to be here with Perfect Game, in Philadelphia. This is, where I'm from originally. Born and raised in Philadelphia, went to Radnor High School, went to Villanova University, played baseball there, drafted out of Villanova and played minor league baseball for a while, but, started this company in 2001. And in that time, we partnered with Perfect Game back at that time. The original founders of Perfect Game, we met them, partnered with them, and started doing filming their showcases. In 2001, we have not missed one showcase of Perfect Games since that time. So when you bring up Freddie Freeman, and if you think about all the big leaguers today, including a lot of the Phillies today, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, and a ton of the guys on the team today, we filmed all those guys back in high school. And our partnership with Perfect Game, filming 100 plus events a year for them alone. Our job in life really is to document and film youth athletes in multiple sports and all sports, and try to help families and athletes to capture their athleticism and their body types, and get them online and get them on video, and help them show their skills. That's what we do.
It's really amazing. I mean, so you go across all sports, not only just baseball.
Correct.
But, what's so special about Perfect Game and baseball to you, being someone who's played it your whole life?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it is my passion personally, right? I've got kids too, 2 kids in high school. My son's a baseball player getting recruited right now. I've got a daughter softball player also, in volleyball. But I mean, baseball has been my family, my house forever. So when we started the company, obviously it was a natural go-to to, all of my college teammates at Villanova, connected throughout the world of baseball. I mean, this universe is not very large. If you've been in the world of baseball, it's a very tight community. I've got old teammates that are coaching in colleges now. They're scouts in the professional level. A lot of people know each other. So I think the easiest path of least resistance was networking within the baseball world. And that's how the company originated.
So what is the package, basically, or the video show that an individual athlete gets from you?
Yeah, from Perfect Game. Well, I should say this. The company originated as more of a recruiting video service. And the goal was, how do you get video on the internet back in 2001 that didn't exist, so that athletes could show themselves to college coaches? Fast forward to 2026, right? The world has changed. The internet has changed. Social media has changed everything. AI has changed everything. So the evolution of video online has changed everything. However, the concept of still sharing video, and every camera you see out here, every camera installed in the stadium, the concept hasn't changed, right? We need to see athletes perform. We need to see them on video. So to answer your question just about Perfect Game alone, we still to this day document all the athletes on the field showing themselves perform. You can read about players all day long. Until you see them play, you really can't have an opinion. So from the evaluators' perspective, the college coaches, the major league scouts, they've got to see him play. Our job is to go out there, and especially in these small towns across the country, like here, in a situation like this, I mean, everyone's getting filmed by many cameras.
Right.
We're not the only cameras out here, but when you go to an event indoors in Wisconsin, and in the same weekend, we're also in Florida and in Georgia and in Tennessee. I mean, we have crews. We've got over 1,500 cameramen across the country that are shooting. And we document, 100,000 athletes a year at least. I mean, in multiple sports, and our job is to make sure they get seen in some way.
How has the technology changed from 2001 to today, just for what you do at SkillShow? How has that changed your business?
Yeah. In the simplest term, there's 2 pieces of the puzzle, right? There's acquisition and there's editing and there's distribution.
Right.
So, and the most recent would be AI, right? But look, there's so many more camera systems now. There's so many ways to acquire video. Cell phones are great. Everyone can do it with cell phones. It's easy to acquire video, but that helps us. We can go in a lot of directions. We choose to use technology as a benefit. So all the different resources, from wearable devices to cell phones to live stream cameras to installed camera systems to our own cameras, there's all sorts of new camera systems. All of it allows us to capture different angles, different styles, different sources, different methods. And then you look at the editing side, right? Like, we film at a high volume. So using technology, using AI, using new editing software allows us to edit faster, to cut smarter, to create data sets that are smarter data sets with which to distribute. And then you look at the online and social media, short form, long form, narrative content. There's so many ways to cut video now. And now there are so many ways to distribute it, and so many platforms in which they have a different way with which to distribute, or how they want it.
When you look at the athletes today, you mentioned your children are playing, high level sports today. But when you look out here, at some of the top athletes, have you seen a difference in the ones that you've shot years ago to today?
Yeah. I mean, these guys are bigger, faster, stronger. It's unbelievable the size of these guys now. I mean, like I said, I played professional baseball and these guys are towering over me. And I felt big when I played, and these guys they're monsters. So I don't know if it's the food they eat. I know the training programs are better, and that's technology. The game has changed. The technology has changed. The training has changed. But these guys they're more ready to play at the highest level, both at college and professionally. And you see them playing at the major league level faster, because they're more prepared earlier.
You've gotten to see Perfect Game up close and personal from the beginning all the way to today. And we're sitting here at Citizens Bank Park, in Philadelphia, where the Phillies play, where the Major League Baseball played the All-Star game this year. And you have kids out there doing their thing.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you think PG goes over the next several years?
Look, I give, from start to finish, PG deserves unbelievable credit. From the founders originally, we started with them when they were like 6 people, right? To the current ownership now. I mean, they have taken a thought and a concept of helping athletes get seen, right? To become an independent scouting service that runs events and evaluates athletes, to evolving into this incredible business that has so many touch points of working in the media industry and working in so many other parts of the industry that it has evolved into a special business, right? And it really has grown in the media space as well. And it covers the industry in so many touch points. To answer your question, I see them potentially going in other sports. If it's softball or it's other sports there, I see them going more internationally because I think this is transferable, the ability to evaluate talent in other areas. I don't think this market is fully tapped. I mean, there are ways with which to it depends on how they want to do it, right? Like you can only evaluate so much, right? You can't necessarily you can run a business and go younger, but you can't run the same business younger, right? You don't evaluate 8-year-olds, but you can run quality events at younger ages, and that's doable. So there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of ways that they can do quality services at different demographics. It's not all the same. Like if you see Perfect Game as just a scouting service, you can't use that at 8 years old, but you can run quality events at younger ages. You can run them internationally. Like they can duplicate multiple parts of their business effectively as a business. I mean, they have a lot of potential.
Well, Tom, it's really been awesome having you on our show. And before we wrap up here, I mean, one of the things that I think has just really been fascinating, I mean, this has been some week in the business of sports, right? I mean, when people talk about the asset class of sports, this was some week, whether it was Apollo getting into the Yankees, whether it was, Mark Walter selling the Lakers, right, to Josh Kushner and Bob Iger, whether it was Bezos now, in the Premier League. Where do you see the business of sports going over the next couple of years?
I think it's only exploding. I mean, and it comes back to data too, right? Like there's such a play in the media world, in the media space. I mean, I think that's what we're excited about ourselves, media acquisition, data acquisition. It's getting smarter, right? It's getting more customized, the fan experience and to the user experience, ultimately down to the lowest level, to the athlete experience. And there's so much, like I said earlier, data acquisition, and we're in the data space ourselves. So as we acquire more data, smarter data, and be able to customize more information, I think it's only exploding, especially at the youth market, right? Like at the pro level, I'm not as exposed to the pro level, the highest levels. They are doing things that are at a different pace and a different level, but the youth market is seriously untapped. It's getting there, but there's a lot of opportunities still there.
Absolutely. Well, again, thanks so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
On behalf of the entire 76 Capital team, thank you for joining us for this edition of our Sports Leadership Show. Please remember to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast network or on the 76 Capital website. You can also explore the hundreds of episodes we've produced over the past several years on those same networks. And as always, go out there and make it happen.